Okay, everyone, so we have another video from WrestleMania talking about 10 things all WWE wrestlers do that make no sense. Now, we all know that when we watch professional wrestling, we kind of have to suspend our disbelief because even though we know that a lot of what we're seeing is scripted beforehand, they plan things out and then they get into the ring and everything goes according to script, or according to the script, excuse me. And if something happens that isn't in the script, it's usually due to an accident or a mistake made by one of the performers, or they purposefully go against the written script, and they always get reamed for it. And it's like all these things. We know this, we know all this, but we still suspend our disbelief to enjoy the product. However, sometimes they'll do things in the ring that just make you go, okay. It's like like there's only so much you can ask from your audience. Like, we can only suspend our disbelief to a certain extent, because what you did right here is like, okay, like this makes no goddamn sense. It's like, okay, now you're asking too much of us. So let's go ahead and let's full screen this and we'll watch the video.
One of the elements to fully enjoy wrestling is suspending your disbelief while
Yeah.
watching the product. Although pro wrestling is loved worldwide, there are certain things about wrestling that simply make no sense at all and defy all reasonable logic. But what are they? Well, join us now as WrestleMania looks at 10 things WWE wrestlers do that make no sense. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists.
Okay, so guys, as always, links in the description to this video, as well as a link to the channel. Head on over there. Make sure to go and support them by watching their videos, liking, sharing, subscribing, all that stuff that the YouTube algorithm just loves. And consider doing the same for this channel and subscribing and helping me get to 1,000.
Number 10. Distracted by music.
Yeah.
Criticized tropes of modern wrestling, in particular WWE.
This is, if you've been a fan of professional wrestling for a while, then you know this. Like, you've seen this God knows how many times. Anytime there's a rivalry between two wrestlers, one of them will be in the ring performing in a match, and then the music for the other one, the one that they're in a rivalry with, will play, and then they'll get distracted, and it usually costs them the match. And it happens so many times that it becomes predictable.
Is the fact that a wrestler is always distracted by their rival's theme music. This occurs when a wrestler is in the middle of a match and suddenly their rival's theme music will hit, and a wrestler will be so distracted by the music that they will lose all focus in the match. This usually leads them to losing it via roll-up, and this has been a WWE staple for the past 3 decades.
Yep.
I mean, does every wrestler have a short attention span? Well, the kayfabe answer to this trope is perhaps the wrestler who is getting distracted is also so consumed by their hatred for their rival that when they hear that music, they have to stop whatever they're doing in case their rival appears. But still, why should this work for every wrestler? Number 9. They don't steal seemingly deadly finishing moves. It's only when you can actually think about certain moves do you question the legitimacy of them. For instance, the
Santino Morella's move, that one where he, the snake thing, and just, it's stupid, it's dumb, it is.
Finisher more effective than a standard elbow drop. There's virtually no difference other than the fanfare involved. The same goes for Hulk Hogan's leg drop. What makes that move different from a standard leg drop? A normal leg drop never seems to win a match.
No.
When Hogan uses the move as his finisher.
Yeah.
Why is that the case?
I mean, for me, it's the same thing as, for example, the DDT. Someone hits a DDT, it doesn't finish them off, but when Jake the Snake Roberts does it, it's a finisher move. It's like, yes, things like that don't really make a lot of sense.
Also, that leads to the question, if certain finishing moves such as a people's elbow, John Cena's attitude adjustment, or even Randy Orton's RKO are so credible, why doesn't every wrestler on the WWE roster use them as their finisher? It's as if certain wrestlers have copyright on their finishing moves being duplicated, but this has never been addressed on WWE programming. Number 8. The Irish Whip. The Irish Whip is a move which is used in every single wrestling match, but it makes little sense. The move involves the wrestler being thrown into the ropes and they will run back at their opponent. But why? Why does the wrestler run? Why don't they just fall down at the velocity of the whip itself? Now, perhaps the kayfabe answer to this is that a wrestler may be able to get some momentum and perform a move when springboarding off the ropes. But the stamina it takes to do this multiple times in a single match makes the move seem completely pointless. Number 7. The no-sell. One of the biggest features of a John Cena match is the fact that he can perform multiple shoulder blocks. Traditionally, the first time you'll use a shoulder block in the match, the wrestler will completely no-sell the move and pop back up, only to be slammed down by Cena again. The question here is, why would the wrestler instantly pop back up? If the move hurts, why are they not waiting on the mat for a breather? The same could be said for quick sequences in a match.
Exactly.
Such as a
It doesn't make sense.
No-sold, and the wrestler, similarly to how they react when hit with a shoulder block, will immediately pop back up. This makes no sense whatsoever. Number 6,
Now see, again, this goes into you kind of having to suspend your disbelief a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, that only goes so far. It's like, how come whenever they hit one move like a suplex, it'll hurt them so much that they'll be on the mat for a little bit before they get back up, but then some moves like the clothesline, where apparently it's strong enough to knock them on their backs, but then they can just immediately get back up like it's nothing. It's like, why is this one different than the other one? You see, and it lends to making it a bit difficult to suspend your disbelief when you're watching a match. And this is, the whole, I'm gonna climb up really, really slowly thing. Yeah, this was something that I noticed even when I was a kid. Even when I was a kid, I was watching it thinking, wait, like why are they taking so long to climb? It's like, at some points, when, for example, it's later on in the match, like let's say it's been 30-40 minutes since the match started, it's understandable then because they've been wrestling for all this time, they took a lot of hits, they took a lot of bumps, and they don't have as much stamina, they're not as fresh as they were when they first came into the ring, so it's understandable then. But usually where it gets ridiculous is at the beginning of a match, they still have a lot of stamina, and yet they take a long time to climb back up the ladder, when we all know that if they had just climbed up real quickly, as they could, we know they could, the match would be immediately over. And it's this thing where I don't know why they don't just tell them to don't climb a ladder until, like, let's say 20 or 30 minutes, or at least really late into the match, or make it clear that you took so much damage that now you're having trouble standing up, and when you set up a ladder and you do the whole climbing up slowly thing, it makes sense then. But at the beginning, it doesn't make sense.
Climb ladders. Now, there have been some legendary ladder matches throughout WWE history, from Money in the Bank matches to Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon to Triple H versus The Rock, and even the iconic TLC matches featuring the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, and Edge and Christian. All of these were acclaimed matches, but even they had an element in them which defied all logic. The issue with the ladder match is simple. Why do wrestlers struggle to climb the ladder?
Yeah, they do this
Wrestlers,
thing.
when climbing the ladder, go extremely slow, as if they're going in slow motion, and this has been the case in all ladder matches, particularly those in WWE. On a few occasions, we've seen wrestlers climb a ladder extremely slowly, only to run the ropes later on. Number 5, a lack of urgency to win a cage match. Now, the cage match is one of the most popular matches that WWE produces, but there's been one thing that has confused fans since the very early cage matches took place in WWE. Now, most cage matches have the stipulation that the match can be won by either pinfall, submission, or escape from the cage. This escape can come from either escaping over the top of the cage or simply walking out of the cage door. However, when a cage match takes place, the match lacks any form of common sense. There should be a sense of urgency in escaping the cage itself, and the easiest way to do this is to simply going out of the cage door. Take, for instance, when a superstar in the match begins to escape the cage by climbing the cage itself. If their opponent simply ran to the cage door and jumped out, they would win the match, but this kinda rarely happens. Number 4, waiting to be hit by a dive. A popular criticism towards modern-day pro wrestling is the overuse of dives to the outside. A lot of fans feel like the move is used far too much, and the criticism is often directed at
if it's used like once or twice every now and then, that's fine, but
hit by the dive always seems
it's used so much that you start to figure out how it works.
Why don't they allow themselves to be hit with a move of that nature? There are a number of wrestlers who try to sell into the dive, and this means that they will sell their exhaustion just before the dive, and this gives them about 2 to 3 seconds to actually safely catch the wrestler.
See, that whole thing where they, like, you can clearly see Rollins is waiting for it, that's a mistake. It's like, that's where, again, it feeds into the whole making it difficult to suspend your disbelief thing. So where it's like, okay, well, wait a minute, realistically, if you don't want to get hit by this, then why didn't you just move? Like, you had plenty of time.
Actually safely catch the wrestler executing the move. Although the move is criticized by fans, the move has never been more popular with wrestlers themselves, and it looks like the move is slowly becoming just a standard wrestling move, similar to a clothesline or even
Okay, so just want to talk about that. See, here it makes sense. Look at this again.
And it looks like the move is slowly becoming just a standard wrestling.
Now, see, there, where Kurt Angle was being distracted by the ref, this is understandable. Even though, yeah, you could say Angle could clearly see Mysterio running towards the rope and he's about to perform a dive, so realistically he should have moved out of the way. But at the same time, it's like, you got to understand, in order to perform this move, like the wrestler has to be there to catch you. And if they're not there to catch you, it could cause like a serious injury. For example, I think I talked about this in WrestleMania 25 in his match against Shawn Michaels. Undertaker, when he did his move, the over the top rope dive, he the spot got botched because what happened was Shawn Michaels moved out of the way, and the whole thing was planned for him to pull someone in Undertaker's way, and the person that he pulled in was another wrestler who was just dressed up as a cameraman, and the whole plan was for him to catch Undertaker to lessen the impact of the fall. But what happened is he botched it, and Undertaker ended up landing on his neck, which of course, as we all know, was it's bad. It could severely affect your health. I mean, I think Steve Austin, the whole reason, like, his career was affected because of a botched pile driver. It fucked up his neck so much that it kind of cut his career short. At least that's what I remember here. I don't know if that's 100% accurate or if that's because I do remember hearing that. So let me know in the comments if there's more to that or if I'm getting my facts wrong. But yeah, it's a move where you understand the wrestler kind of has to be there, but at the same time, I feel like they should take their like they should at least do their part of trying to make it look convincing, as opposed to how it's usually done, where the wrestler will be there, they can clearly see the wrestler coming at them, so realistically anyone would move out of the way because they don't want to be hit. But in this situation, for example, a wrestler being distracted by someone else, for example the referee, would make sense. But again, yeah, you can still see clearly Rey Mysterio from Angle's perspective. You can clearly see Ray running towards him and he's about to do the dive and he should have moved out of the way. But in this situation, I can kind of understand it, because you could say maybe he was being distracted by the ref. But yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, I've talked long enough.
Becoming just a standard wrestling move, similar to a clothesline or even a body slam. Number 3, sticking to PG guidelines. Although before 2008, it was common practice to see chair shots.
I think this is one where we kind of talked about this in a previous video as being the reasons why, or one of the reasons why people have kind of walked away from the WWE, because it just isn't what it used to be. It kind of lost its edge and it just became this watered down, sanitized product where it's completely boring and uninteresting, and it just, yeah, people walked away. They're going to AEW, or they're watching Impact or Ring of Honor or New Japan, anything that just isn't the WWE.
To the head and other obscene violence. But when WWE transitioned into a PG product, this all changed. In modern hardcore matches in WWE, the violence is rather timid, but this makes no sense from a logical point of view. If anything goes in a no DQ or hardcore match, why don't wrestlers perform chair shots to the head or other sinister things such as flaming table spots or even thumbtacks? No DQ matches are usually reserved for heated rivalries, and if the two wrestlers really hate each other, shouldn't they be doing everything in their power to hurt each other? It's as if they signed a secret contract that they would never perform anything in a match that breaches PG guidelines, but this has never been addressed to the WWE fans directly. Number 2, cooperate with every single move. And one of the biggest things about pro wrestling that is completely flawed is the fact
this
that
is something else that you notice after watching for a while.
This doesn't mean from time to time you can hear wrestlers talking in the ring. This can be explained with wrestlers simply talking trash to their opponent. It means that you can actually see a wrestler helping their opponent pull off moves safely. For instance, when a wrestler performs a top rope move, the wrestler taking the move will always make sure they're in the right position. This sometimes even involves them moving closer to the wrestler just in case they miss. But in kayfabe, why does this take place? Shouldn't the wrestler be selling on the mat rather than shifting into position? Certain moves such as Alberto Del Rio's stomp rely on the opponent to actually hold onto the ropes whilst Del Rio performs the move, meaning it looks absolutely terrible and completely brings fans back to the reality of what they're actually
you're watching a scripted program.
Taunts. Taunts are one of the biggest features of pro wrestling, but do they actually make sense? Some of the most iconic taunts in WWE history have included John Cena performing the "You Can't See Me" taunt before hitting the 5-knuckle shuffle, Scotty 2 Hotty performing a dance routine before hitting a basic chop to the grounded opponent, or even The Rock's elbow pad removal before performing the People's Elbow. Do these taunts make the moves more effective? Not really. All they do is allow the crowd to pop, but wouldn't it be easier to hit the move as quickly as possible to end the
Yeah,
match
it
whilst
is.
the
It would
opponent
be.
is down and seemingly hurt? Although these taunts can give certain wrestlers more character and depth, it doesn't mean that their lack of logic can't be addressed. But there you have it, folks. 10 things wrestlers do that makes no sense. Be sure to leave your comments down below. I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.
So is that the end of, yeah, there we go. So yeah, I mean, look, it's everything they said is correct. I mean, a lot of these things just don't make a lot of sense, and it again makes it a bit harder for people to suspend their disbelief when you see something that in all honesty doesn't really make a lot of sense. And when you think about it, it just completely reminds you that yeah, you're watching a scripted program, and it kind of sucks because, you know, part of the wrestler's job is to make it seem like this is actually happening, but it's like, look, some of these things, it's, I feel like it is possible to make it make sense. Like for example, the music thing, like a match would happen and then someone's music would hit, and the person showing up would be in a rivalry with one of the wrestlers in the ring. You know, there's that whole storyline, and then that wrestler would be distracted and it ends up costing them the match. I feel like if they do it to where they get distracted for a bit and then they get back to the ring immediately, or they get back to the match, that would make sense. But as it is, it doesn't, and it just completely takes you out of it. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Remember to leave a like, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. Make sure to hit the bell for notifications. Check out the description for the links, and I'll see you for my next reaction. Bye for now.